Hello everyone, just waiting on Zana Morris from Strong Nutrients coming on, and we're going to have a wee chat today just about how my journey has been over the last 6 months with Strong Nutrients. So I wanted to come on and talk more about it today because I just think that, I'm just going to go and speak with Zana, who is just wonderful, and she's really helped me over the last few months with my nutrition and a lot of the perceptions that I have about diet. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
It's worked fine.
Yes.
I did a test run 15 minutes ago with my husband. So
Well done.
I think people might have saw us just chatting. So anyway, hello. So this is Zana, and I thought maybe you could just start by telling everybody a wee bit about yourself, if that's okay.
I'd be delighted to, of course. Yes. Well, as you rightfully said, I'm Zana and I'm founder of Strong Nutrients. I suppose my background, very briefly, is originally nutritionist. I used to run health stores in my early 20s, and since then have trained in all sorts of angles yoga was one of my first loves, but then went into actual personal training and that side of it. I used to own 3 gyms in central of London. I've written the book, The High Fat Diet, and I have this little nutrient brand, Strong Nutrients. So at the moment, really, all of what I do is very much online nutrition and training, and with these supplements. And as you very rightfully have said and know, I work with individuals on their journeys in terms of the nutrition and the supplements and how to get the body balanced back up and working more as it should as we get older, really. Yes.
And I think
that's it in a very brief nutshell.
And being online is much more accessible to a lot of people, isn't it? So, I think
that surprised
really
me.
Good about
I have to say, that surprised me.
Yeah.
I really thought it was just going to be a COVID thing and I'd be going back to a grown-up day job.
No, I know.
It just opened up a whole new audience and world of people who, as you rightfully say, it gave access to people with all this information, but also made it a lot easier for people because not everybody wants to be traipsing halfway across town or to another town to get to appointments and things.
And we're all in different parts of the UK, so it is really good to have more options. And as you say, a lot of people don't want to take that step to go in and see somebody, don't know where to start. But, I found you, I think about January time, through a few other bloggers that I've seen you work with, and I saw that they were getting good benefits, and, they were, and you could tell that, they were enjoying working with you. And, so that's when I kind of bought my first tablets from yourself, from the Strong Nutrients range. So I thought, we could start with what my kind of favourite product is. So the chill pill, I thought that, when I was taking this at first, I thought, I don't know what kind of benefits I'm going to get, but we talked about my anxiety levels, my hormones up and down.
It was exactly that. When we began, it was very much looking at what were your challenges, what did you need, what were you looking to achieve, for want of a better way. My favorite line when the clients come on is why are we here? In your instance, I know it's because one of my team had spotted that you'd purchased some products and asked, would you like to chat to me? But normally people come to it is a why are we here? What can I do to help get your body balanced up? And it's always about that. It's about getting your body working as it should, perhaps as it did in your 20s or early 30s. Sorry, I interrupted. You go ahead. We launched it. We gave you chill pill.
No, not at all.
But in fairness,
it was just a starting point to try and, to try and pinpoint how I was needing to rebalance a bit. The other day I spoke to you about how I've just realised the last three months or so, I've had no breakouts at all in this area, which is usually through stress, anxiety, hormone imbalance. For me, it is. And I think quite often what we do is we try and, put things on our skin instead of trying to heal what's happening inside, and get a better lifestyle. So I think that's kind of where we started, wasn't it? And the adrenal glands,
very much.
Which I knew nothing about adrenal glands before I started talking to you. So I thought maybe we could chat about that and how chill pill kind of
Perfect.
help with that.
Yes. Because it's quite interesting. A lot of people come to me about shape first. Now, and I say that,
Yes, yes,
I emphasize it that way specifically because in almost every single case, what we end up dealing with isn't actually the shape. The shape is almost a byproduct of what's going wrong in the body in the first place. And if you can get that balanced up, then everything else almost falls into place a lot more
yes.
effortlessly. And the reason I go into that one is because these adrenal glands, oh my gosh, do they influence us?
I know. I mean,
And
I had no idea
yeah,
before.
they're almost a center of gravity as we get older.
Yeah.
So basically, the adrenal glands are involved with all the fight or flight reactions, if you like. They help produce these stress hormones that help us deal with danger, with a problem. So you've adrenaline gets released, cortisol gets released. They do a lot more besides, but these are the two major players. And in essence, it changes the whole body's workings, if you like, at that particular point in time. So part of the jobs of adrenaline and cortisol is to sort of speed the circulation up, speed the heart rate up effectively. I mean, everything from eyes dilate, a little bit like if someone is on drugs, your eyes dilate so you can see more clearly. The circulation moves to the limbs so you can work faster, you're stronger effectively. It moves out of the digestive system, as in all of the blood flow, because at that stage the body's thinking we don't need to digest food right now, we just need to fight this attacker or run away from it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for short spaces of time, this adrenaline first and then the cortisol after is hugely beneficial and really does help us deal with a circumstance at that particular point in time that the body or the brain perceives as dangerous. Over an extended period of time, it's a little bit of a disaster, particularly the cortisol bit. Cortisol always reminds me, in my mind, I always see it a bit like coffee or a caffeine hit.
Yeah.
It's the hormone that's supposed to get us out of bed in the morning. Great. It's a disaster if it keeps, well, I say disaster, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it isn't great if it keeps getting released at night before we go to bed. And that's what keeps us awake, for example. It's a hormone that helps break down muscle tissue to help our body access sugars, to kind of bake so the muscle breaks down into sugars, get that sugar into the bloodstream to give us energy and fuel to do this fight or this run. But of course, then when the body doesn't fight or run, which in most cases when we're stressed, we're not actually fighting or running, we're just stressed. So the body then, and then there's a knock-on effect with insulin getting released to get the sugar out. There's another hormone, ghrelin, that gets released. So there's this whole spiral and cycle that goes on. And as I said, in short bursts, not a problem, but with so many of us, it's not short bursts. It goes over extended periods of time, and it can affect digestion, as we all know. It can have a knock-on effect with the entire system, from skin, from nails, from hair, from our sleep patterns, to, quite frankly, even just gaining weight or losing weight, as the case may be, because the whole metabolism can get thrown off with it. So those adrenals. Now, the other thing, and this is the bit that is almost more interesting with these adrenals, is they produce about 40% of our steroid hormones. So it's almost half of our estrogen, our progesterone, our testosterone. So all of us, and I'm putting me very firmly in the middle of this bracket, of perimenopausal and menopausal and postmenopausal women, where all these hormones are fluctuating anyway, they're dropping, they're dipping. And if our adrenals are on an overdrive and overworking, we're possibly affecting them there too. We always think of the ovaries as producing these, and they do, but almost half of them are produced in these adrenals. So you can imagine these poor adrenals, which are probably overworked for maybe in some cases not just years, but decades, the knock-on effect that can have on potentially the perimenopausal and menopausal symptoms too. As well as just
as you get older as well, years and years of problems can then make it worse at that time. And I think that's what I've been trying to do, get myself in a better situation health-wise for tackling the perimenopause, the menopause years.
Exactly.
Trying to get my body equipped. I've started doing a lot more weight training, strength training, but that's only part of it, isn't it?
It is. So it's exactly that, and that's a huge part of it, though. I mean, a huge part. And back to what we did with you with the chill pill and the magnesium, those supplements, they were there just to help support. Now they do other things as well. The chill pill is just vitamin B5. The magnesium, almost everyone will have heard of. In our case, it's a magnesium citrate, but there's various forms of magnesium, and they do lots of things in the body. But the one thing I was looking at with you was how can we support these adrenals, get the cortisol levels down, which in turn has a massive knock-on effect.
To get the cortisol down with me, wasn't it?
Yeah, and so you don't get you're calmer, you're more relaxed, you sleep better, your energy's better. We used to call chill pill the happy vitamin when I studied nutrition. This is going back nearly 30 years, or actually good 30 years ago. And it's just because of its impact it could have on mood. And it was just simply because everything, particularly the adrenal glands, was working more as they should, as opposed to it being a an artificial sort of stimulant or that, or depressant, more to the point. It just gets your body balanced, and that's we started there, because that, to me, when I spoke to you, was sort of the cornerstone of everything. And if we could get that balanced, which we did, then we could look at the rest, because you'd be in a different place.
And the magnesium's important, isn't it?
Yes.
I don't think I'd really realised how beneficial magnesium can be for the body. And I think with strong nutrients, the capsules that it comes in are much easier to take than a lot of others that I've tried over the years, that are massive, horrible tablets that you can't really take properly. So, I mean, why would you suggest that we should be taking magnesium? In the evening, I take that, isn't it?
Yes. So your chill pill is vitamin B5, and that's one bracket. Your magnesium is a mineral. Where do I start? And more to the point, where do I finish? Because I could be here until tomorrow. Very briefly, the overview. It's involved with over 600 processes in our body. Like, it's a lot. So you can imagine really how long we could be talking. The top lines are: it's essential for us absorbing calcium or using our calcium properly. It helps with the cortisol levels, helping bring them down, and the blood sugar levels. It helps regulate melatonin, so it has a brilliant impact on sleep. It helps the muscle and heart function properly. Yes.
So that's why I take it at night, isn't it? As well.
Exactly. It helps you sleep, and it helps the muscles. So the way muscles contract and relax, magnesium helps them relax. It's calcium that helps them contract. So you need the magnesium to help them relax. If you're getting cramps, it's usually a sign the magnesium is low. And big thing with us, again, us women of this certain midlife bracket, so to speak, is estrogen. When it gets used, you need it kind of flushed out, for want of a better way of describing it, out of the body, as opposed to recycled. And apparently the recycled estrogen is not great for us. Magnesium helps the body get rid of it. So magnesium is involved in so much. And my opinion certainly is it's almost like the just essential, let's not talk about it, just take it supplement that we should be taking at this stage. It really does seem to impact, and it actually
would you say is good to start taking magnesium?
Oh, well, it's certainly, I would I'm going to loosely say from 38 onwards. Now, it's the type of supplement, if a teenager, a 14-year-old was cramping and getting muscle cramps, it's a sign that they need it. If you take a lot of calcium-rich products, so dairy, cheese, yogurts, those kind of foods, you might need a little bit more. And if you train a lot, you likely need more. Brilliant for the heart, very good for, and now just to be very clear, I'm not recommending anything from a medical perspective, super clear, but it is very good for
overall
people with
general
heart conditions and helping with that. And as I said, just on that point, back to that medical side, please always refer to doctors and specialists if you're adding in new things, if you're on medications. But just from a health point of view, it is very good for the heart. It's got a lot of benefits, but I think from the sort of perimenopause, the menopausal game, I would gently work under the assumption from the age of 38 onwards, your hormones are going to begin to start fluctuating. And maybe nothing dramatic. It won't mean you're going through menopause per se, but they'll be starting to be fluctuating.
But what I was saying,
so I think
you notice slight changes, don't you? And as I said, I'm trying, because I've seen some friends, family go through terrible times in perimenopause and things. You want to try and prepare your body as much as you can.
And actually, sorry, I'm just jumping in. I forgot one major thing of magnesium. It helps to produce a thing called ATP. ATP are our energy molecules. Creatine is another supplement that helps create that, and our bodies rely on it. Our brains, more to the point, seem to rely on ATP more when we go through perimenopause into menopause, as estrogen levels drop. So the magnesium can help there too. Just as an aside.
That was a big point that I've talked to you about over the last few months, is that I've cut down on my caffeine, haven't I? And that's great, because I was getting this, I don't know if other people get it, when you have caffeine, you get a hit and then you're anxious, and it was making me ill some days, And I was thinking, this isn't
100%.
good for me.
No.
You know, so to get your energy levels up more efficiently.
Yes.
Rather
And on that, I think that's a brilliant point. I mean, brilliant. Now, I drink coffee, just for anyone listening. So it's not that I'm avidly against it.
No, I know.
But you've made a hugely important point there, Caroline, really important. To me, caffeine and coffee, the caffeine in it, is a bit like a punch on your adrenals. It does. It punches them. And one of the reasons that I take the chill pill personally so regularly is because I like my coffee, and I feel stress hits the adrenals. My caffeine intake, and I only have 2 cups a day, but I do have the 2 cups a day, and my caffeine intake is going to impact the adrenals. Whereas the B5 and the chill pill seems to counteract that and help support them to deal with that. And it's almost like they're the two opposite sides of the coin. You've got the caffeine on the one side of the B5 on the other. And exactly that is a tipping point, because I find the exact same you say. If I go into 3 or 4 cups, I just start getting anxious and irritable. It doesn't do anything for my energy.
It doesn't do anything for you. And you feel very anxious, don't you? And I think, you know, and then that has different, you know, what we've talked about when I was chatting to you was that, you know, I found that I'm having a wee bit weight around my tummy area, that I was, you know, that for years it's just bothered me, you know, and again, that's a bit to do with trying to get my system working better.
Yes,
you know.
it is. And we were having this conversation, and I think this is really quite important, because there's the term that we use, and we still use it, and everybody, I think almost everybody, if not everybody, agrees it's not about weight, it's about fat loss and so on and so forth, but we still muddle the terms. Understandably, we're brought up with it. And this idea of weight around the tummy, which is technically obviously fat around the tummy, because you're not going to have a big muscular belly. You might have a toned one, but you're not going to have weight on the tummy, it's muscle, it's going to be fat. So really, when people are talking about fat around the belly, we're not really talking about weight loss here. We're talking about fat loss that is very much linked with the body releasing too much insulin. So anyway,
that's what I wanted to get to about this insulin production. You know,
all belly fat, all fat around the middle is related to the body releasing too much insulin for whatever reason, but it's related to that. And that's irrespective of actual weight. You could be quite slim with too much fat around the belly, and you could be quite big with too much fat around the belly. And equally, you get some people who are actually quite big with no fat around the belly.
Oh, I know, and you do.
Yeah, and you do. And quite frankly, somebody is big with no fat around the belly, genuinely health-wise, they're great. They don't need to worry about it. It's up to them who they want to lose. But personally, I'd be saying, don't worry about it. It's the fat around the belly that's the questionable one. And this insulin game that you're hitting upon, there are 3 big reasons we're overproducing, if you like, insulin as we get into this perimenopause and menopause. And I'm not saying everybody is, but a lot of us find there's that little spare tire, or a big one, as the case may be, that kind of creeps on, that doesn't shift with what we used to do. And that bit's important.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, isn't it? You know, that's the thing, what you used to, what you're doing.
It used to just target it and then drop off. You might, I mean, I remember some people who I knew quite well, their version of it was, I just won't eat on Monday. I'll have my evening meal, but I won't eat during the day. And that'll shift the pound or 2 I put on. And that stops working. And the reason is because it's insulin related. So it's got nothing to do with calories anymore. And all to do with that hormonal shift. And the 3 big reasons for the insulin being more, if the body being more insulin resistant is the term we use. First, and again, I'm sure everybody's heard it, but putting the 3 together, you can realize what a perfect storm we can hit. The first is perimenopause, menopause. As estrogen levels drop, we apparently become more insulin resistant, which means, in English, a little piece of chocolate that you might have had when you were 15 has virtually no impact on the body. Tiny bit of an insulin hit sorts out the sugar out of the bloodstream, we're solved. The same size piece of chocolate with the same calories, the same ingredients that we have when we're 55 as opposed to 15. The body isn't reacting to the insulin, so it releases some more, and it mightn't react to that, so it releases some more. So you get this big hit of insulin to get the same amount of sugar out. And the job of insulin is to get the sugar out of the bloodstream, but it then gets shuttled and converted ultimately into belly fat. So the same foods have a totally different reaction as we get older if this hormonal balance is all
talk about that. They do, you know, everybody talks about, you know, it's different as you get older, how your body reacts. So it's actually good to hear a wee bit about why that is. you know, rather than just saying, oh yeah, you're just getting older, that's what happens.
No,
You know, what can you do about it?
Yes, yes. Because it's not a calorie game anymore. It's about getting the insulin flatline, flipping the body back into fat burning, and then you can play with calories. But until you do it that, you'll just end up in heartache trying to go at calories, because you'll lose muscle, not the fat in most cases.
Because we talk a lot about nutrition as well, you know, and how, you know, you've wrote a book about the high fat diet. You know, can you talk us through that a wee bit about, you know, what?
Well, very briefly,
just trying to touch on different subjects.
To pull it together,
Well,
those 3 reasons for the that insulin going up. One, as I said, is the perimenopause. The second, which I hit upon just earlier when we started, is the cortisol, because cortisol breaks down muscle to access sugars. This is an important one, actually, for anybody who's finding it difficult to lose fat. If you're under a lot of stress, it can become very hard, because the cortisol's job is to get the body energy, and it does that by breaking down glycogen and muscle to access the sugars in them. Those sugars go into the bloodstream, and now your whole body's acting like you've just eaten a Mars bar, even though you haven't gone near it. So the sugars in the bloodstream.
So that's from stress.
That's from the stress. It's attacking part of your body tissue, converting it and getting it into the bloodstream in the same way as if you ate something sweet. And then the insulin gets released, pulls it out, and it gets shuttled as fat. So stress does it, perimenopause does it. And then the obvious one is too much carbohydrate or sugar in the diet does it too. And for so many of us,
carbs is bad as well. Too many, not
too
bad,
many.
Too many.
Yes.
Everything
in moderation. Exactly. On their own, no, they're not, but exactly that, too much. The carbohydrates break down into the sugars. Obviously, the pure sugar is the worst, but the carbohydrates still break down. And if you're on a very carbohydrate, sugar kind of dependent diet, combine that with the perimenopause, menopause, combine that with stress, and now you've got that perfect storm.
Well, I think I realised that about carbohydrates, that combining them with a lot of sugar is kind of the worst kind of combination.
The carbohydrate and the sugars, the carbohydrates break into the sugars, a high sugar diet, and then a high stress diet, which makes you want to eat the sugars because of that hormonal imbalance. It makes you crave. It does get you on a bit of a roller coaster that can feel hard to get off.
Yes.
And that ties in beautifully with that high fat diet. Because carbohydrates break down into your sugars cause that insulin release, and so on and so forth. That can lead to the belly fat. Even protein causes a little bit of a sugar release. Now, not the same as your carbohydrates. So carbohydrates, to be clear, so we're all on the same page. By carbohydrates, we're talking about it could be anything from breads, rice, pasta. It could be fruit, believe it or not. I say this cautiously, but I'm not saying this is bad for you. Even vegetables would fall into that bracket, but I'm not saying they're bad for you. Just to be clear.
I know. It's combining everything together, isn't it? It's too much, you know, things together, isn't it?
Yes. That's sort of the bracket of them. And then your proteins, which your fish, your meat, potentially lentils would go in there, cheese would go in there, eggs would go into your protein. Protein still breaks down into amino acids, which are the building blocks of you. So everything from your eyes to your nose to your enzymes to your heart are amino acids. You're one big amino acid block, basically. They are essential, but it breaks into amino acids and sugars. So even your protein can cause a little bit of an insulin rise.
Okay.
The only food group that does not cause an insulin rise is fat.
Which I just couldn't get my head around. You know, at first, could I? You know, it kind of goes against everything that, you know, a woman in her 40s has been kind of taught.
We've been drummed into no fat. In fairness to you, you were very good at the protein. I have to hand that to you. You really, you had the eye on the ball with the protein. You really did. But no, the fat was that side. And a lot of women still kind of look at it and it's the enemy. It's just being drummed into us.
But I think that's why I was more open to learning about fats, because over the last 3 years since I've been doing a bit more weight training, I have seen the benefits of protein. My husband's been very good at getting me to try and get more protein in my diet, and I see the benefits of it. But a lot of people are scared of protein as well, aren't they?
Yes. And if you think about it, protein is the only food group that will build you structurally. The carbohydrates won't do it, and the fat won't do it. The fat has other benefits.
Okay.
It's full of the fat soluble vitamins. It's essential for cholesterol, and believe it or not, cholesterol is essential to create hormones before everyone runs under the bed covers. If our cholesterol's too low, you can't create hormones. So we really need to get our understanding of these things before we try and wipe everything out. It's a bit, sorry, my brain as I'm talking, it runs into the whole thing, isn't it?
I know,
Pesticides,
I'm
we put up all the insects.
We're going to have another chat. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, we've got 5 minutes left, and I'm thinking now we're going to have another one of these.
Very briefly, I'd love to have another one, but let me loop it back very briefly. So this bit, we get this bit answered. Protein is the only thing that is the building blocks of you. So that's essential for that. And fat is the only thing that is the only major food group, macronutrient as we call it, that doesn't cause the body to release insulin. Hence, the high fat diet is so good for flatlining insulin. Now, it is obviously a low carbohydrate, low sugar diet. It's got a medium amount of protein in there, but it's the only one that helps really flatline the insulin, if you like. It certainly gets it very stable. So rather than ping-ponging into a lovely kind of stable line. And the other thing it does, but this I will leave on, I won't go into this too much, is it trains the body back into fat burning, which is a thing we call metabolic flexibility. If you can train your body back to being able to burn fat as a fuel as opposed to sugars, it means two things. One, you'll have way more sustainable energy on a day-to-day basis. This is why people do this intermittent fasting, by the way. You'll have way more sustainable energy.
Touch on that briefly.
And you'll be able to, if you have excess fat on, able to lose it much more quickly. A lot of people just can't get back into that fat burning. They've become so sugar reliant. And it's hard for the bodies have just
doing
forgotten.
it for decades, as you've said. Our bodies have been used to this kind of fight or flight, for decades. Just because we're going to have to finish up soon, just the other thing that we talked about over the last few months is the fasting. Now, my vision of fasting was that you starved yourself, really, and it was not manageable, and I've realised that it's super manageable. I feel more energy, I feel less sluggish. What are the benefits, if you can tell us?
In a very brief overview. Yeah,
I think honestly, at night till 7, 8 in the morning. It's not hard.
It's a 16-8 kind of game. The first thing to say on the fasting bit is, if you do find, if it's somebody you want to do and you find difficult to do and feel too hungry, two things I would just say as a tip before I launch into why you might want to do it. Extra protein in the evening. If you have a high carbohydrate, high sugar meal, you will be starving the next day. If I have a high carbohydrate meal in the evening, I rarely do, just to be clear, but if I did, I'd have difficulty doing it. It would be sheer willpower. If you get enough protein in the evening, you just seem to, you don't wake up hungry. It just carries you through. And the second is ease into it gently. You can start on 12 hours and increase it to 13. You don't have to do it instantaneously all at once. But those benefits, honestly, weirdly, even though most people are coming to me for shape, that wouldn't be the first reason I'd recommend people do it.
I know.
Forget
I know.
shape.
I know. Because as we've said, I'm trying to incorporate healthier habits. And this is one of them.
I think it is. It does help stabilize the hormones. It gives the body a chance to reset. It really does. So it has a lovely impact on insulin. It has a lovely impact in converting certain fats in the body into a type of fat that the body can then use as fuel or energy. I personally do the intermittent fasting because my energy is much, much better on it. And that's my mental energy as well, not just my physical. I just feel better doing it.
I must say it was harder when I was on holiday last week, and I missed doing it. I think it really does make you feel overall brighter.
Exactly. Yes. And it does help target the belly fat. So it is a good reason to do it. But weirdly, if you've got somebody underweight doing it, now this is assuming they eat well around in those 8 hours, it helps because of the balancing effect on hormones. There's a very good chance it would help the body utilize the nutrients better. So therefore, they might be able to then, and I don't mean get overweight, just to be clear, it's balancing the body up. So they're more likely to be able to put on weight potentially a little bit better, as in healthy kind of muscle weight and things like that, as in lean body mass and the likes. So it's almost like a recalibration effect. There's so much research to show its impact on the mitochondria and the cells and the rejuvenation effect and so on and so forth. And I think that the best way for me to describe, I think, the benefit of it is, I think we forget that the second we put something in our mouth, it's not just going into our mouth, as in we're not just putting something in our mouth and that's it done. The whole digestive system has to go into play. So you've got enzymes in the mouth, it goes down to the stomach, you've enzymes, hydrochloric acid, you've got hormones that kick in, you've got all those microbiomes and all of that kick in, all the prebiotics, all of those games, that's all happening all the way through the intestine and so on and so forth, from extracting all the nutrients to getting rid of all the waste.
That a lot as well, because I was tending to eat small amounts when really, not that I should be eating big amounts, but to stop snacking.
Stop grazing. Yes,
it's putting your body under pressure, isn't it?
Well, you're asking it to be always on, always, and always running at this sort of low power mode where it's constantly digesting, constantly. And if you think about it, it takes energy to digest. It does. Your body's doing something, so it takes energy. And now that energy that could be going into something else, be it housework or just a game of tennis, is going into digesting. So if you think about, of course, you're going to be slightly more sluggish if you're always digesting. So I'm not against somebody, if they need it, eating 4 or even 5 times a day.
Well, we said that as well, didn't we?
It's not about calories, and it's not about calorie control in that way. It's not about, it's just eat, stop. Need to stop.
Because I've never been into fad diets or calorie counting, that kind of approach. So I think this is what's been so interesting about my journey with you. A lot more understanding about how my body works.
And consideration, because we've lived with it since we were born. You can take it for granted. I know. And there's a lot going on in there.
But and also coming back to, as you get older, you don't have to think, oh, that's it, my body's not working very well, I'll just let the weight come on, I'll just let my body go, I'll just let my health go. I think that's what's really been great about the last 6 months. There's so much that you can do to make things good again, and get your body working properly.
It really is true. It may be a bit more intent and focus, a little bit more work. It doesn't have to be a lot, but a little bit more focused attention, if you like. The body's amazing. And no, there's no reason for it to just sort of, so many things we call aging genuinely aren't. I mean, okay, yes, they are. We're getting older and things aren't firing up as quickly as they did. But almost all of them can be modified and helped along by either changing the exercise approach or changing the nutritional approach. You really, what I see on a regular basis that people might call aging, I would say have nothing to do with it. You're just not using your body properly. You're not looking after it properly. We've all heard variations of this. Most people look after their car better than their body.
I know, that's the thing. And especially as you get older, I think there's a tendency to kind of give up sometimes. And I think, I try to, through my Instagram channel, try to talk about just, look after yourself. And just because you're in your 40s or 30s, 50s, 60s, doesn't mean that you can't do something about your health, can't do something about, your appearance, how you feel, your emotions. I think finding yourselves has really helped me get a bit more organised in my brain about how my body's working.
That's a great way of describing it. It really is. It's just understanding it, isn't it?
But I mean, what we'll do, have to finish off, but I feel as if we could talk for longer, so it would be good to do another one of these, and maybe I can ask followers if they've got any other specific questions and things, because it is a lot to take in, and I know that it can be quite an awful lot to take in one sitting, But I mean, I'm going to share my discount code for the Strong Nutrients. It's a good starting point. I found starting off with the chill pill and the magnesium was good, but also I'm a big fan of protein powders, so I like your protein powder. My husband takes it now too, you know, and although we started off collaborating, I buy the products myself, you know, so it's an organic relationship, isn't it? So
yeah, and I appreciate it. Yes.
So,
I appreciate the chance to chat generally about it. So any questions, and I do mean that, any questions, I'm delighted to answer if I can.
For people. It is a muddle for people, and thank you to everybody that joined us, and thank you very much. Thank you for all your help and over the last few months, but also for a great chat today.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Caroline.
Speak to you soon.
Speak to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.